glad to see you all here. My name is John Epps. I'm the Executive Director for We Are One United. Tonight, we're doing something very special. Our Community Resource Specialist cohort training is starting this week. On Tuesday, I had a live group of people in a little room. That first day at our office, it was hilarious. We had new office chairs that had a very special feature to them we didn't know about. So we had some excitement for a few seconds as some of the seats started coming off of the chairs, but we survived. We survived. And that's what this is all about, right? We want to get beyond focusing on problems and focus on solutions. So I want to welcome each and every one of you here tonight. I don't know that you all know each other. And so if it's okay with you, at some point, I would like to make sure we all do introductions, just so that we, because we're in this virtual space, sometimes we don't take the time to try to actually get to know one another. As I said earlier, I'm originally from Philly, but I've been in California now for over 30 years. So I don't think people at home can tell me I can't call them home anymore, but it'll always be home. What I'd like to do tonight is just take a couple of seconds and ask you to share your name. And if you're associated with an organization or affiliation, please feel free to share that briefly. And then we're going to try to get into the lesson. So I'm just going to look at my screen. Now, so you guys can't turn cameras on and off because that's when the screen starts moving and then I look foolish. So I'm going to start with the first person I saw tonight when I logged on. Miss Edith, I think we'll start with you.
Yes, my name's Edith Lascola, and I've lived in the Valley for, well, over 20 years. I've been in California for probably over 40 years. And I'm a widow. The organization that I work with, we work with people that have disabilities, and I work day and night.
Well, thank you very much. Well, we thank you for your service. And as you can see, I'm trying to learn how to be more sensitive, turning on my captions and everything so that we can make sure everybody knows what's going on. So welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Jilska?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jilska Chandrasena. I am the Director for Community and Mental Health for We Are One United. I have known Mr. Epps for 10 years, over 10 years, through the RAP Foundation. I have lived in the desert for 30 years, ever since I got married and moved to the desert and made it my home. And I am ready to embrace everything in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Angelica?
Hello, my name is Angelica. My weather is quite different where I am here. I am located in Hawaii, but I am John's executive assistant at We Are One United and one of his other projects. So I just provide assistance to the team, and I'm just happy to be here today with all of you and learn more about the community.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Dr. Pasawa.
Yeah, my name is Augustine. I generally don't like these titles too much. So Augustine is fine. I've been in California for nearly 27 years. Before this, I was in Ohio, Columbus, and then in Michigan, Detroit. In Detroit, I actually used to do some community work. by volunteering. Many people are released from prison. What programs can we put in place to make sure that they did not go back to prison? So I used to evaluate those kinds of programs when I was in Detroit. And then I moved to California, which was a strange place in some ways. Strange, not in a bad way, but it was far more expensive and drivers were crazy and all of these kind of stuff. So I was sort of, I was really surprised. And I worked at UC Riverside for nearly 27 years. Also, I used to do organizational work, but mainly of the, so that people were pushing me towards the revolutionary side. Let's overthrow the system and these kinds of stuff, but I would just sort of watch. So I'm glad to be with the community resource team. I look forward to doing all I could to affect the mission of the organization.
Thank you. Thank you. Billy.
All right. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I'm from the Coachella Valley. I moved to LA for school, and then finished and worked in outreach. I had a pretty cool internship when I was living in LA that allowed me to do some education ministry work in Ethiopia. And after that, I just fell in love with giving back. And it even made me reflect on my own journey of having mentors in my journey and having positive programs that help just expose me to so much. And I've always felt that I should also give back and help others and think about some of the programs that helped me along my journey. So now I decided to learn more about community health and medicine at College of the Desert, and that's where I met Dr. J through his program, and just was sharing with me some of the initiatives that were going on here tonight. So I had to be to learn more and learn about the work that this team is doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss Iris. Uh-oh. Miss Iris kind of froze. Okay, we'll come back to her. Ivory?
Hey, John. Hey, everybody.
Hey,
My name is Ivory Thompson. I've been living in the desert for about 38 years. I coach high school and college basketball here in the desert right now. I've been coaching for over 25 years. I've been mentoring young men and young women, probably about 15 to 20 years, because that's part of the profession, in coaching high school and college basketball. So happy to meet John. Met him at the college through Dr. J. I'll join and see what we're doing.
thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Subair. Oops, we can't hear you, Zubair. You're muted. Uh-oh. Can you get it? There you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Zubair Bakubie, born and raised up in Africa, small country called Uganda. I'm the Director of Social Enterprise and Employment. I worked before with the city of Riverside, the county of San Bernardino, the city of San Bernardino, and then Riverside County. Right now, I'm really happy to work with We Are One United and with everybody in the team and those ones who are joining us. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Lottie.
Hello, everyone. I am Vlada Rivnakova Gonzalez, but please call me Vladi, much shorter. I'm originally not from Coachella. I'm from Slovakia, but I got married. And my husband is Palm Springs born and raised. So this is my home now. And my background is, well, I studied journalism, but when I started doing it, I found out it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I started volunteering for nonprofits. So I feel like this is what I want to do, like things that matter, things that help people. And so I've been doing this for, I think maybe even 8 years now. So I'm really happy that I found a community within Palm Springs and Coachella and Riverside that I can work with. And hopefully I'm really glad to know all of you.
Thank you. Ms. Kwana.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kwana. Excuse me. I am Director of Operations and Human Services for We Are One United. I was born in Los Angeles, and I lived there for my life until I came to the desert after I got married 10 years ago. I made a career change, and I'm so happy I did, because I love the work that We Are One United is doing to support communities and the youth throughout Coachella Valley and the Inland Empire. I'm so happy that you all are here to join us in that mission, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Ms. Iris, you want to try this again?
Can you hear me, John?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm Iris Williams. I'm a native of California, the best state in the union. And I have a psychology background. I worked for the federal government for almost 20 years in employment and training. Right now, I'm the major fundraising, I guess, executive with We Are One United. And I'm really excited about the accomplishments and what we have going on in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. I see someone named T. Thomas. Can you unmute? Oh, is that you, Ivory? Is
Yeah.
that your phone?
No, I'm not on the phone. I'm on my computer.
Oh, okay, then we have somebody. I'm not sure who it
Terrence
is.
Thomas.
Oh,
Terrence.
hi, dear. Okay,
Terrence,
please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. That happens to me all the time. Okay, we'll come back. Mr. Frazier.
hello everyone. I'm Philip Frazier. I'm born and raised here in the Coachella Valley. I moved away briefly to attend undergraduate school in Chico State, and then I attended graduate school at the United States Sports Academy in Mobile, Alabama. Again, born and raised here in the Valley, and Valley's always going to be home. I started a company, MPG Wellness Initiative, Inc., and I'm in the process of starting a community wellness program here in the Valley, and looking forward to being a part of this endeavor.
Thank you very much. Ferdinand. Hello? Ferdinand? Okay. Edwin.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Edwin Ramoran. I'm one of the directors of development, sustainability, and reporting for We Are One United. I was born and raised in Palm Springs. And after undergrad at UC Riverside, I went to live in New York City for 20 years. So I only moved back to the desert about 8 years ago. and to help take care of mom and dad. So I've been a caregiver, but also my career has been and still is in contemporary art as well. So I've been working with artists for a long time, but I also have been one of the co-founders of the Desert, and we've been focusing on Filipino American civic and community engagement here in Palm Springs in District 1. So I'm very happy and proud to be part of this team and to hopefully bring back the talent and the technology and the training to District 1 as well as the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dion. Dion, you're muted, so we can't hear you. There you go.
Sorry. Dion Allen, currently resource parent for foster care. I work with Philip Frazier at MPG Wellness. I live in Beaumont by way of Compton, Long Beach area. But I've been here in Beaumont for the last 30 years.
Thank you. Okay. Uh-oh, I see Ferdinand looks like he's back.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. I was born here in California, in Delano, California. Moved here with my family around 1965 in the desert. Been here ever since. Went to Cal State Long Beach for a bit. And I am a practicing artist here in the desert. But I also work from a faith-based church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, particularly the Filipino American Seventh-day Adventist Church here in the Valley. And I'm the director of the Religious Liberty Department. And I've been working with kids through the Pathfinder program through the church. So trying to help and mentor new leaders, not only for the church, but also for the helping in the community as well, out there in the community. So I'm really interested in what you guys are doing, and I want to be part of that.
Glad to have you with us tonight. And Jacob.
Hello, my name is Jacob Cook.
Got a little stuck, Jacob. Can you repeat that?
And I'm from my name is Jacob Cook, and I'm from College of the Desert. I'm very interested in health and philosophy and being involved in understanding the youth circumstances, as well as helping them work through obstacles for their opportunities.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible. So I'm going to share my screen, going to talk for a little bit. I'm going to certainly welcome any questions. If you have questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask. And also feel free to put things in the chat. I'm going to ask Angelica and Quana keep an eye on that for me and let me know if I need to stop to answer anything. And I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And here is the share. I'm also going to, okay, we're good. So I think we're ready to go. Real quickly, sometimes for me, what drew me here, for about 19 years, I taught at UCR Extension. Started out teaching technology, went into business, and then for probably the last 8 years or so, I did what was called the nonprofit management certificate program for them. And I was doing training, particularly in Coachella Valley, because an organization called the Regional Access Project Foundation was offering scholarships to nonprofit leaders who were in the valley. And so I think I probably worked with about 70 or so leaders over the years. And then when time came, I retired from there. I unretired to work an additional 3 years with the Regional Access Project Foundation as the director for the Center for Nonprofit Advancement. And in that role, I was the fiscal agent for an organization called the Desert Highland Gateway Community Association. And that's really how I got to know about North Palm Springs and this community. Then in 2019, I retired for almost half an hour. It didn't last more than half an hour before I was doing something else. And at the end of 2020, I was talking with Jessica, and she was like, Mr. Epps, we really have to do something. Mental health is really in bad shape. This was the end of the first year of COVID, and people were really feeling the impacts of it. And we started this organization called We Are One United. And the rest is kind of, as they say, history. I want to talk a little bit about who we are, what we've done, but mostly about what we think we can do together. And so to make that happen, I'm going to try to go to my next slide. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I look at the world, it feels a little bit like this poster. I saw this poster and I thought, man, I need to share that, because I'm hoping I'm the only one who looks at that and I get overwhelmed. But in some ways, we have lots of different services that we put out there to help people, but they're not really well coordinated. They're all kind of all over the place. And I want to make sure that we do something that's a little more organized and focused. And so I wanted to suggest that the best way to start this relationship is just to establish a clear, what I like to call a clear foundation. And so what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through what we do and how we do it and all of those things. So first thing I want to talk about is purpose. You know, purpose is about the why we are here. And Edwin said it a little bit earlier, but really, I feel this organization was born to equip communities with skills and tools that they could use to transform their future. I really believe that your future is whatever you choose to make it, but I believe many people don't have the tools or understanding for how to get there. And so our purpose is to equip people, to prepare them in whatever way works best for them. I think when we talk about our vision, we think that, you know, that's a picture of the future. You know, whenever you set out on a journey, you like to have something in mind as far as where that journey is going to take you. And so our vision says we would love to see flourishing communities with access to resources and equity for all. Now, I don't want people to survive. You know, I think people have been surviving for a long time. It's time for people to flourish. It's time for them to thrive. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they kept saying, look, I just really want to see people really thrive. And I think that we can do that. I think that the way we can do that is described in our mission. And so when we talk about a mission statement, it really should tell us a little bit about, you know, who we serve, what we do, all of those kinds of things. So this is what our mission is that We Are One United. It is to add value to communities through innovative, high quality, high impact programs and practices. So let me say that one more time, that we want to add value to communities. One of my mentors, I consider John Maxwell. He's written quite a few books on leadership. And the one thing that he said many years ago that resonated with me was, I want to make sure that I add value to every person I meet today. The reason I'm here with you tonight on Zoom is because I believe that that is the mission that we have. It's to add value to each and every person that we meet. And so when we do that, we empower them to live the life that they want, and not just to be kind of take what comes along, but to be more agents of their own future. And for us to do that, I think we have to set some kind of parameters around us. And that's what our value really talks about. Our values suggest three things. There's three main things to our values. The first is to generate positive development. There's a lot of things you can do that don't do anything to move you forward in life. We want to make sure that whatever we do moves you forward in life. So we want to generate positive development, not just any development, but positive development. And then the second thing is we want to operate compassionately. We really care about people. Too often, we've heard it, but I don't think we always pay attention to that little saying that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so we want to make sure that people understand that we do care about them. And one of the best ways to show someone you care about them is to listen. And that's a big part of what the community resource team philosophy is all about. We want to hear what the community has to say. We want to let them tell us what they're looking for so that then we can respond to their priorities. That's when they know you really care. A lot of people come in with programs and spent a lot of money doing studies. And then when the grant runs out, they walk out and the community is still exactly the same. Our goal is that when we leave, people will, number one, know that we cared about them, and number two, be better off because we were here. And so the last of our values is just to be who we really are. I hate to tell you this. My wife will tell you, this is who John Epps is. Everybody who has known me for a long time will tell you, this is who John Epps is. We want our organization to be the same way. We want to be authentic in everything that we do. We're not here to really impress people. We're not here to try to, just chase the money. We're really here because we really believe in the ability of communities to be not just successful, but to flourish going into the future. And so we did some work earlier. Again, we started in December 2020. We got our first grant in middle of, I think it was March of 2022. That was a mental health grant for the Regional Access Foundation to look at how we could help in the mental health area, remove stigma and improve access to mental health services. One of the things we did, we started having what we call our virtual cafes on Wednesday evenings, and we would invite people from the community to come and be guests and talk to the community about ways. I remember one of our early guests talked about being a mental health first aider and how to, help. And we just really wanted to bring things to the community. But as we went along, we got another grant from the Bureau for State and County Corrections, which allows us to address violence and do intervention and prevention services. And so as we started to grow, we put together a strategic plan. When we put together our strategic plan, one of the things we recognize is, well, what are the things that can affect us? What are the things that will have an impact on the work that we're trying to do? And so in the planning process, we do what we call an environmental scan. And in the environmental scan, we look at different factors that can impact a community or impact the work that people try to do in a community. And so I want to ask you, I know some of you were thinking you just could sit back, but I'm going to ask you to contribute a little bit. What do you all think? And please feel free to unmute yourself and kind of share or type it into the chat box. What do you think are some of the factors that impact the organization when they come into a community to try to work with that community? Sometimes it can be a cultural impact, like, people don't know each other or don't trust each other. Sometimes it can be an economic impact. What would you guys say would be one or two impacts that can happen in the community? This is really open. Anything? Go ahead.
Lack of trust.
Yes. Tell me a little bit more about that. Was that
Well, as you said, if people don't know you, they're suspicious of you and your motives when you come into the community.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have something else?
I thought about like something as a judgment. So we come to a community and we automatically file them as like, oh, they need help. So it's like kind of already assigning some things to them, but that's not true. It's like we shouldn't like start like by judging people in the general, because people don't want to be seen as like they need to be helped, because that's the wrong type of a view to look at things.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. That's great, Vladdy. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Frazier.
One of the things is getting to know and understand the mindset of a community, because in 2014, 2015, when we did a survey of the Desert Highland Gateway community that was funded by the Desert Healthcare District, even though I was born and raised in the community and the community knows me, still we had to get to know the mindset of the community in order to be effective.
That's very good. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else?
I think no matter what is going on in the community, it is important not to judge or condemn people.
Yes.
For example, you may go to study crime in the community. If you enter with a horrible mindset that they're all bad, they're not good for nothing, you are just here to save them, they actually commit the same mistakes that colonialists like Great Britain did in Africa, because they came in and condemned all the cultures of the people. Eventually, the people rose against them because they said, hey, we have been here for thousands and thousands of years. We have our own culture. Why are you saying that we are bad? We worship trees, we worship Satan and all of these things. So no matter what you know about the community, I think it's good to follow the example of Paulo Freire, to engage in dialogue and bring out issues instead of you coming and say, I know everything, I'm good, you are not good at all.
That's good.
That's important.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to add, most people have mentioned some form of it already, which is the building the trust and building the rapport with the community, because sometimes going into communities, because so many people have to survive in the community, there could be unwritten rules and politics that organizations organizations are not aware of. And the only way to start learning about what some of those things are is by being patient and meeting people where they are and actually building and establishing that trust. So sometimes it can be you have the short-term goals and then you have those long-term ones that's really about building that trust up so that you could start, adding some value and getting through some of those barriers.
That's good. Thank you very much, Billy. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, and I think there are more things that we will come across, but that's what made us want to put the community resource teams together, because we think about, it is important to listen first before we decide what needs to be done. And it is important to let the community set the priorities, not us. And so often people ask me, what is our programs going to be? And my answer is always, I don't know yet. I'm trying to let the community tell me what the program is going to be. And some people, they want no, tell us what you're going to do. And my answer is, we're going to uplift the community. That's what we're going to do. How we're going to do that, they're going to tell us what that means. They're going to define that, not us. And I think it does come back to all the things you talked about: mindset, establishing trust, good communication, being willing to listen, to be humble and not come in and think we know the answers. Let us tell you how to fix your problems. I believe that everything that the community needs to prosper and grow is already available in that community. It just needs to be identified and activated. And so while there are a lot of things outside, the other thing that impacts us a lot of times is our stakeholders, right? That there are a lot of people who have expectations. And, a lot of us know what it's like when we do things because of the expectations of others. If the community is going to really be liberated, if it's really going to grow, then the community has to define itself well enough that it can stand up to the expectations of others. Now, there's many others. There's funders and investors who can come in and give resources to the community. And sometimes they come with the right attitude of, we're here to help. What do you really need? And sometimes they come with, we're going to take care of you. We're going to, and that's not going to be healthy. There are the people who need some assistance or who want to grow. What we even call them makes a difference. Do we think of them as clients, or do we think of them as constituents or members or beneficiaries? What is it, what do each one of those things mean in the community? I was talking with someone the other day, and I was talking about mentoring, and she said, I work with people who have been incarcerated, and they don't like the word mentor. They like people who are their sponsors. So it's a lot in just the words that we use and how we use them. But maybe one of the most important expectations we want to try to get a hold of is, what is the community expectation? When we're young, we have very high aspirations. We think we can pretty much do and be whatever we want to be. But after a while, we're told what we can't do so much that we start acting like we really can't get it done. I think that doesn't just happen to individuals. I think that happens to communities as well. And so when you talk about North Palm Springs, we want to make sure that there's a pride to what we're saying about that community, that there is a hope in that community, there's joy in that community. And those things are there, and they need to be listened to and understood. Volunteers can bring so much to an organization. A lot of people just want to help. I heard one young man tonight say, I think I want to pay it forward. Somebody helped me, now I think it's my turn to help them. And I think that that was for me, a lot of what got me into teaching was I found out that the more I taught, the more I learned. It was just that simple. So I used to volunteer to help people all the time. Long before I became a professional trainer, I was training people for years, and it really benefits you. Somebody said that you can never give away more than you give back when you are trying to help someone else. And so, I think we have great staff, and our staff is trying to challenge itself to be the very best that it can in doing all of the things that they have to do. But you can't do it alone. You need to have partners. The one thing we talk about a lot in our business is collective impact, because I can try to do everything, but I'm probably not going to do that very well. What's much better strategy is for me to focus on one or two things that fit my strengths, and then find partners who can fill in the gaps, who are willing to provide those services that I can't do because I just don't have the expertise or the resources or the gifts to do that. We think that there are people in the community who can help, and it's not just about money. Be exact, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but money is the least important thing to being successful in building communities. Trust is the most important currency. Communication is how that currency flows. And we need to make sure that we find sponsors who bring those things to our community. But we live in an area where, there are a lot of government services and agencies available, and we have to make sure we are willing and able to take advantage of them so that we really have communities determining their own destiny. That's really an important part of that. Now, I mentioned this a minute ago, to help me in the work that I do, I use a tool called SOAR, which stands for Strengths, Opportunities, Aspirations, and Results, as a way to ask people, well, what do you want to do? How do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And these things really help people to stop focusing on the problem or the need. We want to get away from being needs. Well, the community needs us to do this, to a place where we say, this is what the community wants. So, when we do the SOAR analysis, one of the things we ask is, what makes us proud? Now, I know I heard Mr. Frazier back there a little while ago, so I'm hoping he's still around. But what is some of the things that make you proud about being a part of this community?
Oh, wow. What makes me proud about being in some part of this? This community is my family.
Yeah.
Family, the connections I have, the relationships I've had that go, man, almost 60 years.
Yeah.
Just relationships.
And you can't put a price on that, right? You can't buy that.
Yeah.
Let me ask another question. What is it? And you don't have to answer this, Mr. Frazier. Somebody else can try. What makes it unique? What makes the community unique? Anybody?
Again, this community is resilient.
Okay.
Back in 1963, when I was in the 5th grade at Francis Stevens Elementary School, they burnt down the community. Section 14, they burned it to the bulldozer to the ground. The community relocated, they thrived, and we are still here. I was 5 years old and I can remember it very vividly.
Wow. My next question is going to be, what is our greatest achievement? But that sounds like quite an achievement right there, correct?
What?
So let me say this. When we build on our strengths, we get energized the more that we do. Too often what we try to do is focus on our weaknesses, and we spend so much time so much energy trying to focus on our weaknesses that we never really take full advantage of the assets and strengths that we bring into the picture. You know, when we talk about this idea of SOAR, it says, you know, what opportunities really exist? You know, I like to tell somebody, I think I was talking to somebody this week, and I said, every problem is just a disguised opportunity, right? Every problem is just a disguised opportunity. So instead of starting out thinking about it's a problem, start asking yourself, what is the opportunity? What is the opportunity hidden inside of this thing that most people think is a problem? And the other reason I think that happens, anybody know why I think opportunities come disguised as problems? Because most people stay away from it. So if you really look at it, if you embrace those things that most people call problems, you're going to really flourish, because that's where all the opportunities are. You know, I'm from Philly. I said that many times, right? I keep saying that. And there's a story there. Anybody here heard the story Acres of Diamonds? Does that ring a bell? I think I saw Miss Iris say hi.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, the story is really about this farmer who really wanted to be rich, and he had this farm. And so one day he decided to sell his farm and went off to search for diamond mine. And well, we don't know what happened to him. But the guy who bought the farm was there, and one day he was walking through the creek and he saw this stone in the creek. It was kind of nice looking, so he took it home, put it on his mantelpiece, didn't think much about it. And then one day he had a friend stop by, and a friend says, "Oh my goodness, that's the largest diamond I ever saw." And the guy said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you know, that's a diamond on your mantelpiece." And he said, "No, that can't be right, because they're all over the place here." And so the moral of the story, I think, is pretty obvious, right? That a lot of times we're busy out looking for something that's right under our feet. And I think that when we think about a community, there are all kinds of opportunities already available in the community. And part of our job is to give people the tools and to equip them to use those tools so that they can turn those opportunities into very valuable art. Is everybody still with me?
Yep.
Okay. The next thing is aspirations. I think I talked about this a little bit, but when I was a kid in kindergarten, you know, my first day of school, my mom was walking me to school. You guys remember, anybody remember first day going to school? I really remember this day very clearly. And I'm going to school with my mom, and my mom is telling me, "Listen, you live in the United States of America, and you can be anything you want to be. You can be anything you want to be." Now, I'm a little Black kid in North Philadelphia. I don't know no better. So I walk into school. I sit down at my little desk and cheer. I throw my feet up on the desk and cross my arms, because I'm the president of the United States. And as I was flipping head over heels, because my mama knocked me right upside my head, she said, "It's not your turn yet." But that was my dream. I've always believed that anything that I put my mind to, I could do. And sometimes we hear so often from the inner voice that you're not good enough, that you don't have enough. And then we get that all reinforced by the outer voice, the people who say, "Well, you know, you don't look right. You're too big, too small, too smart, not smart enough." And we lose our aspirations. But I have to suggest to you, our job is going to be to try to make people dream and dream big. My team will tell you, I say this all the time. There's two things I say. One, go big or go home. Because what's the sense in being small and doing great work? Doing great work. And then my team came back to me and says, and we will find a way or make one. That's what Hannibal said when he invaded Rome. And I think when you have that kind of determination and grit, then there's very little that will stop you from achieving the results that you want. That's a part of what we want to do. We want to be a representative of that kind of an attitude in the community. We want our community resource teams to go out, to listen to people, to encourage people, to equip people, so that that community mindset that Mr. Frazier's talking about comes alive with so much vigor that it's get out of my way or be sorry about not moving. You know, I want you to be like the big linebacker in a football game that when you see that guy coming, you just say, yes, sir, you have the way. So that's what SOAR allows us to do. It makes us take a look at what is it that's going to energize our work, not focus on how bad things have been or what's going on. That doesn't make us unrealistically optimistic. What it makes us is determined to learn from all of the mistakes that we make so that we don't make them twice, and to turn that energy positive and keep it that way so that we never feel sorry for ourselves or for anyone else. Is everybody okay with that? Does that seem like that's okay? Now, I got to tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and I was watching the other day. Some of you might not know what that is, but I like movies. And they were talking about, you know, they were in trouble. And the guy says, my mama always told me when I was in trouble to make a plan. And so I agree with them. So we do some planning here. And we really have created some strategic objectives, some things we want to accomplish so that this community can be all that it can be. When we talk about strategy, one of the things that's really important is you should take your strengths and match them with the opportunities that are available to get the greatest return. That's how strategy tries to work. It says, what's our strengths? What are the opportunities? How can we bring them together so that we can go as far as we can down this road together? Now, I used to talk about this all the time in another one of my businesses, and I know I hadn't said this in a long time, but one of the things that I believe is that you don't try to just get the job done. You try to exceed the expectations when you do the job. You want to not just, if somebody says, walk with me 1 mile, you want to be able to walk with them the second mile, the extra mile. You know, does everybody know where that expression came from? Walk the second mile. Anybody know where that expression came from?
The Bible?
Well, it did. But you know what? Why it got where it came from to get there? What happened was the Roman law said if a soldier in the Roman army was going from one town to another one, if he saw any citizen of the country that they were in, he could require them to carry his, you know, supplies and weapons and tools 1 mile. He could require that. And I didn't think it was a mile since they were in Europe, so it probably was a kilometer. But he required them to carry that 1 mile. At the end of that point, that person was no longer obligated to continue. And what the soldier would do then is look at somebody else and say, okay, well, I want you to now carry that the next month. So what that expression that we saw in the Bible really was about was, rather than have that other person have to carry that load, why don't you just carry the extra mile? And that's the attitude that we want to have going into the community. We don't want to just carry people 1 mile. We want to carry them the extra mile. We want to make a real difference in your life. That's how transformation takes place. It's not I did my job, it's that I exceeded what I was supposed to do. And if we do that, then I believe we'll really make a big difference in our communities. Now we have tools like we set goals and we list action items and deadlines, and then we track all of that on a scorecard. But in the end, it's really about what we do with each of the people that we meet every day. So we put together that strategic plan and looked at our strengths, looked at the opportunities, and we said, this is what we think is the right things for us to do. And we created 10 strategies. At the top of our list of strategies was this one. And Mr. Frazier, everyone who has spoken has said this earlier, Billy, it is establish trust in the community. And I think we do that by increasing visibility. So let people know that we're here. I think when I got the grant, the next day I have people call, be exact, that very day that it appeared in the newspaper, had somebody call me at home on Friday, like Friday night's my date night. Don't call me on Friday night because it's date night. And my phone rang, I'm answering the phone, and the guy said, how do I get my share of the $2.5 million I just got? And I said, how did you get my phone number? And he said, oh, so give it to me. I was like, well, it's my date night. I'll give you a call next week. But we want to be visible. And I think our grant really made us visible. I think the second thing I've been saying is we want to listen to their priorities, to what the community thinks is important, not what the people who gave us the money thought were important, not what the people in City Hall think is important, but what the people in the community think is important. And then gather data. You know, we want to both give information, so we gather data on our side all the time. I'm always sending articles out to our team about ways to do things, new ideas, innovations, but we also know that in the community, there are new ideas that we don't know, and we want to listen and learn that, and then work together with them, with other organizations. One of the first questions I asked when I got the grant was, well, what other organizations are in these communities? And that's how I eventually found people like Cynthia Frazier and Edwin Ramoran and, you know, just people, Mr. Philip Frazier, because I asked, well, who's out there who we should be working with, who have the best interests of the community at heart? Is anybody still with me?
Yeah. Mhm.
You guys hanging in there?
Yes.
So we said, first thing, you saw Miss Vladi there. She's our social media and web person, and it's all about increasing visibility. You know, we do these webinars. We're gonna have community meetings starting next week. We're doing things in the community. We have our cafe. I think we have a job fair coming up on March the 30th. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so that's really important. These are all not just so that we can say, oh, we had a job fair, but we really want to be visible in the community. We want people to know who we are. And you as CRTs will be the representatives for our organization in the community. And so, you know, we're going to have cafes. We'll have more cafes in the future. We have newsletters. We want to have For Youth by Youth newsletter because they talk a language I don't understand whatsoever. You know, I have 9 or 10 grandchildren, maybe 12 now, I can't remember. And, you know, I got some great grandchildren, but whatever they're doing is saying, I don't understand, but they know how to talk to each other. So we want them to be a part of our story. And we want to tell people's stories. And then we want to make sure that we're able to engage the community. And that's where focus groups, the community resource teams come in, and other ways that we really get together. We want to have some mixers in the community, some little community workshops. How do you, you know, how do you sew? How do you cook? You know, I gotta tell you, the character of people is usually revealed in two things, right? The clothes that they wear and the food that they eat. You know, I have to say, some of my favorite times are breaking bread with people, although most people will tell you that I'm not really big about eating a lot out. But it tells me a lot about people when I see how they are about eating out, because that's the heart and soul of many communities. So is there any questions? Now, a part of making this happen is what we call asset and access mapping. And my little captions are covering that, but that's okay because the next slide is all about that. So I'm not really, well, I am really old, so maybe I shouldn't say I'm not really old. Okay, so I'm not old in my thinking, but probably 30, 40 years ago, I ran into something called asset-based community development. I was a student in college. It only took me 37 years to finish my bachelor's degree. So for those of you who are in school and studying and thinking, I don't know if I'll ever finish, trust me, just hang in there. You can get there. But this idea, asset-based community development, or ABCD, really focuses on how can we really, from the inside out, help transform the community. And these 4 steps is what they recommend. So the first one is, you know, understand the resources. And then the second one is about ways that we do the work. We call those methods. There are the role of the community. We call those the functions. And then there's monitoring the process. And so I'm going to walk you through each one of those steps. This is kind of the real heart of what I want to cover tonight, is getting you to understand this idea, because we're going to use it every time we do something. So the first thing I want to do is talk about resources. Now, a lot of times people look at our community, Mr. Frazier said it earlier, and they don't see all of the gold that is in front of them. See, most people in a community bring something to the table, whether it's education, experience, resources, time. Those are all contributions that people in that community bring with them. But in addition, just that network that they have, Mr. Frazier talked about, he called it family. He said, this is my home. These are my people. I know them, they know me. That's where the trust comes from. There are a lot of institutions in our communities. I grew up at a time when the center of my community was the Black church. And so I would be able to go to the church for recreation. I could go to the church for food. I go to the church for clothes, and I could definitely go to the church for education. Sometimes not the education I wanted, but maybe the education I needed. So there are a lot of local institutions in communities that have not been formally recognized. that are not acknowledged, that are not working at their full potential. There are a lot of local places that make up communities, that make them important. I know I said this before, but back in Philly, there's a place called Fairmount Park. It looks almost like the background of Lottie's screen. It's the largest municipal park in the East, maybe in the country. And on the weekends, we would just go hang out in the park. There's something special about the park. Everybody would come out, we would chill, we would bring our girls, our cars, and we would just be social. We would just have a great time. There was no acting out. It was just a great place, inspiration. You looked over downtown Philadelphia, you saw art museums and the Franklin Institute of Science. And so it was inspirational. There are, just like that background behind Lottie's head, every time I see those mountains, it just makes me realize there is something special about this place. And every place has that special. But the other thing I think that makes communities very special is this idea of exchange. Too many of us worry about our credit score. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that don't go have a bad credit score. That's not what I'm saying. But I grew up, and to this day, I still don't understand how I grew up. Essentially, my mom having like an income of about $600 a month to pay rent, to buy food, to put kids in school, to go to work every day. And she was able to do that because all of that wasn't done with money. Sometimes it would be like, I'll watch your kids today, you watch my kids tomorrow. There was an exchange system within the community that made it possible for everybody in the community to prosper. My mom, I always would come home and there were kids at my house eating, which I didn't understand because we didn't have any money. But my mom would always have enough food for anybody who wanted to come in the community and eat. Well, how did she do that? Well, she would walk by a lot in the neighborhood and say, that's going to be a garden. And then she started growing stuff in the garden. And before you knew it, the community would take it over. But if she needed some potatoes, she'd just go by. People would give her food. Exchange is not, money is literally the lowest level of exchange in a community. It's the level you go to when you don't have any of the other richer forms of exchange. Is everybody kind of with me? You can exchange time. You can exchange your, you can say, my dad used to do aluminum siding and windows for homes. So he could say, well, I'll do this for you. You could do my plumbing for me. There's a whole network of exchange that happens in communities, and we want to tap into that because we just think, well, you don't make any money, so that means you don't have any value. And that is so far from the truth. But as you could tell, I'm also a storyteller. Now, I think some of you have noticed I'm a little bit of a storyteller, but that's because stories are really important. I remember we used to do something at Rap called the Fast Pitch, and we had a gentleman come out and teach us about how to do a fast pitch, how to tell our story. And one of the questions he asked was, why did Peter Pan kidnap Wendy? Now, some of you, in the nice Disney movie, Peter came and he took Wendy and they flew away. Today, we know that was an abduction. Okay, let's just be real clear what Peter did. He snatched the little girl out of her bedroom and took her away. Now, why did he take her away? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Why is everybody looking at me?
I believe he said he wanted to have a mother for some children. I can't remember the storyline.
Very close. That is very close. He says, I want you to come with me so you can tell us stories, because stories are how we grow up. Did anybody hear me say that? Should I say that again? I wanted you to come with me to tell us stories, because stories are how we grow up. That's how we change the community. We learn our stories and we tell our stories, and they help us to remember what makes us proud, helps us remember what we are capable of, helps us to be stronger. Does everybody follow me? Follow me. And here's the bad news. We like telling our stories. The one thing I'm hoping that the community resource team will learn is that the best thing you can do if you want people to talk is just let them talk about themselves. Because just like I've been talking for over an hour, I don't have no problem continuing. Nobody has any trouble talking about themselves. If you don't trust me, just go anywhere, sit down and say, tell me, and you be trying to get away. But these are all resources or assets that are in our community. Now, too often, one of the things we've done is we take stories, but we don't exchange anything for the stories. Part of the reason that we're paying you to be community resource teams is to invest the money we're putting in you, which is going back into our community. That's part of why we started this. This wasn't so that you could just have a job. This was so that as you get enriched, you automatically go back and enrich the community. That's what you're doing. And so the first part of that asset-based community model is this resources or assets of the contributions, the stories, the institutions, the places, the associations, and the exchanges that really make the community work, that if we tap into them, will help us not just to survive, but to thrive. Still, my friends? Still, my friends? Now, I'm going to suggest to you that there's a way to get things done. And when we talk about establishing trust in the community, building that, I think this is the way it works. It's first, welcome. You got to earn people's welcome. You got to recognize that if people welcome you, that's an opportunity now to get closer, to earn their trust. And then we got to ask how we portray the community. One of the things that I said earlier was what? It's really going to be important whether we call people clients or beneficiaries, right? Because one implies that they are broken. The other one implies that they have needs. Does everybody see what I'm saying? So what's that language going to be? How are we portraying the strength of the community, not the weakness of the community? When we look in the media, it's all about weakness and fear and trying to generate, some kind of reaction. What we want to do is create peace and calm and a sense of satisfaction. That's what we want to do.
Mr. Epps.
Yes.
Can I ask a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
When we're talking about what we call the community, would it be possible to call them like consumers? Because you and I, we're all consumers of Stater Brothers, Albertsons, the dollar store, and it's kind of a neutral term.
Well, I'm going to say this. I want to ask the community what they want us to call them. Because there's one group that would say, well, it does sound like a pretty neutral term. And there's another group that would say, well, that really confirms the capitalist nature of our country.
Oh, okay.
So trust me, I've been there. I've been there. So what I would suggest, Mr. Frazier, is that we're going to ask them, how do you want to be portrayed? What do you, and I'm going to say, they want to be portrayed as independent and self-sufficient and courageous, because they are.
Yes.
So whatever that language turns out to be, that's going to be what we're going to work with. And I have to tell you, this is the attitude that I always have. I just tell people, I don't know what you want. You got to tell me. Because I don't want to make any assumptions about what I would think would be okay. I want you to tell me what you think is okay. So we're going to be asking that question. And they may like the work, you know, just like the people I told you about earlier, they didn't want mentors, but they wanted sponsors. Now people are doing the exact same thing, but they just don't want you to, don't call me a mentor, call me a sponsor. So we just got to ask. I don't know the answer, but that's the right question. I want you to have that kind of, you know, inquisitiveness as we go into the community. And we can't make any assumption. And this drives people around me crazy because they want me to be able to tell them, well, we're going to call them this and we can put this. And I can't do that because it's not what I think is important that matters. It's what they think is important. Does that help? Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we want to create this idea of being willing to share again. You know, too often we heard these words, right? I got to get mine. You know, I have to say, people who know me and people who don't know me find out that, you know what, if I have $2 in my pocket and you need it, then I will hand you the $2, even if that means I have to walk home. Now, at my age, I don't do that anymore. I don't go out. But if I had $2, I would give it to you because you need it. Does everybody, you know, I was at a, what do you call it? An Bread the other day to meet somebody. And the lady came out and she was like, sir, do you have $1? And all I had was a $20. So I just handed it to her. Actually, and she just looked at me. She was like, did you really just give me $20? It was like, well, I don't have change. So I guess, yeah, I was supposed to give you this. And she was just like, you know, she was blowing kisses my way. I was hoping my wife wasn't watching. So, you know, you have to share comes from being the example by being generous yourself. And I have to tell you what the most valuable thing you offer people is what? Your time. Because you can get more money, but you can never get more time. So just the fact that you are willing to spend time, you know, I pick up my granddaughter 3 times a week. And, you know, that works out well because it lets my daughter stay at work instead of trying to figure out how she's going to go pick up her daughter or how she's going to have to wait, you know, in the dark in the winter. So I just go pick her up. I don't mind going out and doing that. I give time, and that's love. I mean, anybody here got a little kid knows that when you pay attention to something else, they will drive you crazy. They will go, mama, 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 until you say yes, because they want your time. So we just have to learn that the time we're putting in the community is an investment in the future growth of the community. And we want to really have that joyful spirit of celebration. Does everybody know what I mean? We really need to recognize and bring back joy, because joy and fear cannot be in the same room. Let me say that one more time. Joy and fear cannot be in the same room. And everything that you run into on media and social media today is trying to drive you toward fear or greed. It's really that simple. So I really think we want to celebrate often. We want to celebrate kind of freely, you know, and you know, a lot of times when you celebrate with somebody, you know, kids get over having disagreements real quick because they find something that they can celebrate about. And once they celebrate, all that bad feeling that they had goes away. It only stays there when you read the media or go home and somebody tells you that you're no good and it's all your fault and you shouldn't have did it in the first place. We have to create a sense of celebration in the community that, you know what, you said it, Mr. Frazier, earlier. Look, we are resilient people. We ain't got to apologize to nobody. You know, we have no apologies whatsoever. And then I think the thing you have to really do is help people be willing to look back into the future again. I used to teach a class, time management, and I always say the reason most people don't go very far is because they spend most of their time looking at what they did instead of looking at what they could do. They look backwards instead of forward. And then they wonder why they keep falling over things. See, vision is all about looking forward, but being realized that you cannot see everything in front of you. You know, one of the things that I do every week to remind myself, I just say this every week, which is, you know, please help me to do the right thing, because even though I think I'm doing the right thing and I think I'm going the right direction, I really don't know if this is the right direction, because no one knows. You can't know what's in the future. But vision says you got to act like it. You know, when you get in your car and you start driving somewhere, you have a vision of where you're going. Now, if you've been there before, that's a pretty simple drive. But if you've never been there, you guys know what I'm talking about. You'd be trying to, I hope this is the right road. I hope I made the right turn. And I hope, I know that's what vision's about. Vision is that hope that I'm going in the right direction and making a change. And then the last thing in this method is the idea of discovery. That when we really look, we don't want to just look at what's familiar. We want to start looking for the new. You know, somewhere again, when we were young, and any of you have little ones or had little ones as children, you know, they think they're supposed to look in everything. There is no place off limits to them. I remember I watched my granddaughter one time. She started down on the floor, found a chair, got herself up to the counter, found another thing on the counter, climbed up on top of the canister. She was after the cookie. And she climbed all the way up to where the cookie was. Then I let her have the joy of trying to figure out how to get there. You know, that's the grandpa part of you. Oh, now you're up there. You want me to come and get you? Sorry. Figure it out. You figured out how to get there, but there is something about this using those muscles to discover your future that helps you to go out there and really make a difference in the world. So that's part 2 of that asset base, how we go out into the community and operate in each one of these areas. And then the next part is being sure we understand community is really about these 7 things, okay? The first one is assuring security. People just want to feel safe in their communities. You know, we got this grant because it's called Violence Intervention and Prevention. Why? Because it's not a safe place. It's that simple. And the purpose of community, let me say this again. The purpose of community, its function, is to give people safe places to live. That's why we live in villages. Does everybody understand? Okay. And then the second thing is that we want to make sure that we can enable our health. That's why I put them on the bottom. You know, we want to make sure that we help people enjoy the living that they do to the best of their physical ability, their mental ability, their spiritual ability, their social ability. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? That it's not just physical health that I'm talking about here, it's all of your health across the spectrum of your life. And I think these other 5 functions kind of coexist with these 2. And on the top, you know, taking care of our environment, the ecology around us, you know, making sure people don't come into our community and put giant warehouses and that bring in 2,000 diesel trucks. And now our kids all have respiratory disorders because, Amazon, oh, I'm sorry, someone, I didn't say that out loud.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
No. And so, so you see everywhere, they're everywhere. And so you really
San
need to
Bernardino County is located in
Alexis,
California.
Amazon, stop. And so the other part is, and I mentioned this earlier, contributing to local food production. Now, my mom, she was really, like I said, this little old lady, she would get off of a bus and she would be walking in the neighborhood to see a lot. And she'd just say, we're going to make that a garden. And the city would say, no, that's our lot. And my mother would say, well, it'll be there when you're ready for it. But right now we're going to use it as a garden. And she would clean it up. She would take all the debris, put it in a shopping bag, carry it home on the bus, put it in the trash at home. And she would come back the next day and start putting the dirt and growing stuff. And she would make them accessible. So I think I heard somebody at the beginning, I think it was Edna, say something about, Edith. Yeah, and by the way, I have an aunt named Edith, so thank you, Edith. But you're talking about working with the handicap. My mom had all these folks at the garden. She had bricks so that they could be in there with their little cane and they knew right where what was. This is where the sweet potatoes is, and this is where the beans are. And they would come to that garden and sit out there, and people knew not to mess with them because you did not want her wrath. My mom was like 4'2" or something, but she was like a little hurricane, so people knew don't mess with her people. But another program I was part of in Philadelphia, there's a thing called OIC. And in the 1960s, when the civil rights movement was starting to make some progress, they started opening up jobs for Black folks, but we couldn't go take those jobs because we didn't have the skills because we had never done that kind of labor. And so one of the things OIC did back in the 60s was open up a place called Progress Plaza, and they put a supermarket there. Because how many times have we talked about we live in a food desert, right? How many times have we heard that? So what they did, they opened up a supermarket in the hood, and then they used that market to train people to do warehousing and how to run a retail outlet. And so they used it as a training opportunity in the community. That's what the community is supposed to do. Fix its problems, not just wait for someone to come in and fix those problems for them. But likewise, that makes us in control of our local economy instead of being dependent on, well, who's in Washington this week? I don't care who's there because we know how to survive and how to thrive wherever we are. But I think it's still true. It takes a village to raise a kid. And one of the things that I see today is too many people who are not either contributing or willing to let others contribute to the growth of their children. I was very fortunate. My parents had some problems when I was younger. They broke up and I wound up needing to spend time with my grandparents. And I have to say, richest years of my life, time I spent with my grandparents. To this day, I still remember what they told me to do. I still remember how they taught me to act. I still say yes, ma'am, to people. And people say, Mr. F, you're like 71 years old. What are you doing saying yes, ma'am? And I was like, look, that's what you're supposed to do. I ain't going to forget. I ain't going to forget that. And then I think that goes along with this last thing, which is we just got to take care of each other. I shared with the group on Tuesday. I used to be the block captain for my block in Philadelphia, right? So my job was to make sure that our block was safe. And there was two things that I did. In the wintertime, I would go visit all the old people. On a day like this, I would be knocking on their door because today it's been cold and wet. And I would say, hey, how you doing? Can I come in and sit down and talk to you for a minute? And just want to, say hi and tell you about my dog or whatever. I just talked to her for a few minutes. and then I would leave. And then I would go, and if I was sitting in their house, the reason I went in their house to sit down was so I could see my breath while I was in their house, which meant they didn't have any oil, they didn't have any heat. And then I would send the oil truck to their house to pump oil into the oil tank. And the guy would come and start pumping the oil. And they'd be like, well, I didn't order any oil. I can't pay for that. And they was like, no, this already paid for. I don't know, somebody, it just came. You know, I never said anything. I never asked them, never told them who did it. But I just wanted to make sure nobody on my block died of exposure. That was just the way it had to be. And that's what we have to do in our communities now. We have to care enough about one another, not to kill one another, not to disrespect one another, not to try to steal from one another. Because when we take care of our own, then our communities become that safe, nurturing place for everyone, no matter what age they are, no matter what color they are, no matter what. And that's what we've got to do, is we've got to become this kind of a community where all of these systems are functioning. So this is the third part of that story, right? So it's the assets, okay? And then this last one is about checking ourselves, because this is what I know. Every car will go off course if you don't check the steering every so often, make sure you're on the road. So the first one is, if we look at how well we give gifts to one another within our community, if we focus on the idea that our exchange is selfless, then our communities become oases of prosperity. That's the only way I can explain it. This is how we really turn the corner. We begin to take care of one another, just like I did when I was in Philly. And you know, I wasn't, by the way, I don't want anybody to make a mistake. I was a guy with 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a lot of other problems. But nobody messed with anybody in our block. When the check day came in Philly, and some of you might not know what check day is, that's when your welfare or social security check comes and folks go shopping. We made sure somebody escorted all of our seniors and anyone else who needed a ride to go do their shopping, so they didn't have to worry about any shenanigans or somebody trying to hit them and take their money. So that's gift, right? We just had people who would say, oh, this is Tuesday, I'm gonna go down and pick up Smith and we're gonna go down to the market and we'll be back. And he had these 2 really ugly Rottweilers. So you ain't mess with them, because them dogs look hungry. When you build those associations, they change the community. It gets broader and deeper. You know, when you want to handle trauma, one of the things I tell people, it's like conflict is like a bridge, dealing with it being on a bridge. When you don't know people very well, that bridge is real thin. Sometimes it's not even complete, and you have tremendous catastrophe. But if you build a strong, broad, deep bridge and the conflicts do come, you're able to handle them. You're able to recover from them. And that's one of the things we want to do as a group. We want to mitigate violence. Well, how do we do that? By building deep, lasting relationships. That's how we do that. We get them to care about each other enough that they won't do the stupid things that people are doing right now. And then the last thing is, we all have responsibilities in our community. And the word that I use for that is citizenship, not a word I hear very often these days. I hear political parties, I hear race, but I don't hear people talking about citizenship. And what we got to do is help people realize that it is important to exercise our responsibilities, not just to vote, but definitely to vote, but also to care for the well-being of everyone, not just in our community, but in the community around us. Because this is what we know. If they're doing well, then the enemy got to come through them to get to us. That's the only way I can explain that. So it's in our best interest to make sure that you're okay too. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. And then the very last thing in that evaluation is for us, people like We Are One United, the sponsors, to really look at the processes to make sure that we're really doing all of these things that we said we're going to do. Because, yep, sometimes we lose our way. So it's our job to make sure that we keep checking to make sure we're lined up. I told somebody I took a cruise to Hawaii, and on my trip to Hawaii, you know, it says we're gonna be there in 4 days, 9 o'clock in the morning. And the 2 times I've done it, we've been there right on time. And does anybody know how fast the cruise ship goes to reach Hawaii in exactly 4 days? Anybody have any idea how fast the cruise ship goes? Somebody could throw out a number. Well, it
No,
goes
sir.
about,
No
what
idea.
was it?
No idea.
Oh, 22 knots, about 20 miles an hour. It just goes at 20 miles an hour, but it stays on course. And it's there every time. Could you imagine driving to LA at 20 miles an hour? Sometimes you have to drive that way because of traffic, but I mean intentionally, every day, all the time. Does anybody remember when the speed limit used to be like 55, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now any of you drive 55 now? I just want to know who you are so I'm not on the highway with you.
No, sir.
Yeah, you know, and my point is that it's about staying the course, right? It's not about how fast you go, it's that you stay the course. The work we're going to be doing is not going to be done quickly. We are dealing with, how many years did you say, Mr. Frazier? 1960s, you were 5 years old?
1963.
So from 63 to 2023, if I'm counting correctly, is that like 60 years?
It's like something like that, yes.
So if that's 60 years, you ain't gonna undo 60 years of damage in the next 6 months. It's gonna take time. And what we tend to do is, because it's not fast, we think that it's not working. And those are not the same two things. We have to stay the course, just like the cruise ship, so that for the next generation, it will be right. It might not be right in our generation. We might not see all of the results that we would like to see. But what we have to do is recognize that we have to hang in there so that that next generation does see it. And I think too often what we tend to do is we get impatient. We take away the funding, we go spend it on something else. And as a result, we just keep starting to trip over again, and we're not getting anywhere. And that's the work that we're gonna have to do. This is just another representation of that whole thing I just showed you. And the only reason I liked it was, see how it's kind of circular? We're gonna do some stuff and then we're gonna have to do some stuff over. We're gonna have to do some stuff, we're gonna have to do some stuff over. And we're just gonna have to keep doing that. That's just the nature of the work that's in front of us. But the great news is, if we are true to the work, then we'll reach our North Star. We'll reach our goal. We'll get where we're trying to go. But a lot of us, in the name of innovation, don't misunderstand. I want innovation in the methods, but I don't want you to try to reinvent this model. This is the model. This works. We know that this works. We know communities where it is working today. And so we want to stick with what we know, because what we really know is that for people, it's all about associations. It's about whether you're a part of a community group, an environmental group, a chess club, a sports team. That's why we like sports teams, right? We all become Lakers fans or Charger fans. It's about associational life. That's what really we function our best when we're in that position. And so tonight, I just wanted to introduce you to the methodology of who and what this is all about, okay? And why we are here and why we are doing it the way we are doing it. That it's not just a crazy old man who, wanted to, spend some money, but it's really because there is a way to get the results that we're looking for. Anybody still with me have any questions or comments or thoughts? Because this is really all about you guys. Anybody?
I think it's a good idea that we have structure, and I think as long as we can see, we maintain that structure, we can see the direction in which we're traveling.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Appreciate you. Anyone else?
Well, just a question.
Yes.
The PowerPoints that you showed, are they saved anywhere, maybe at the website, just to review?
Yeah, you'll all get these. You're going to get a copy of this and a link to this presentation tonight as well.
Okay, thank you.
So both of those things will be made available to you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a teacher by nature, Augustine. I'm sorry. And just between you and me, I'm always happy to give away stuff. So you'll get all of it.
Okay.
Mr. F,
Yes.
community is the key. I grew up like you. We didn't know what welfare was. One lady made quilt, another man killed hog, other canned vegetables and fruit,
Yeah.
and we bartered
Yes.
for everything
Yes.
in that community.
Yes. And to me, it's a richer community when you do that, right? Because you give somebody really good canned peaches or them peaches was the bomb, and you can't go to the store and get that quality of food anymore. So yes. Anybody else? No?
I have a thing.
Please.
I mean, like creating a community where people trust each other, it's pretty amazing in general because it's not easy. And it's like I was born in community, but I didn't grow up in it. But one thing was like you could never trust even your neighbor. So what we did, people went to church when they knew because this is where they could trust. So building a community you can trust, it's like I feel like it's an amazing initiative that should happen because people should be able to trust each other because only that way you can help each other.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, buddy. That is, and you see this? I was going to show you a picture of me. I used to have real hair on this head, and I started doing this work, and now this is what's left.
I got gray hair too since
No, I would take gray hairs. I don't have any hairs.
I can give you something.
I have no hairs. I mean, gray would be great. Anybody else? Please. Ms. Edith, anything? Any comments?
So
Yeah,
I have
well-
something to say.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Coming down to trusting, we have to give our children a safe community to live in, and that will build that trust.
Perfect. I agree with you. Ms. Edith, and then I'll come back to you, Bill.
I was just going to say that you really have a wealth of information, and I can understand why the organization has progressed as well as it has.
Thank you.
So,
Well, thank you. Well, I'm hoping you'll be part of our journey. So don't
I would
hold
like
back. Don't hold back. Mr. Billy?
Yeah, I really appreciated learning everything you shared, and especially the asset mapping of the community is that stood out a lot to me, because sometimes there's just so many things that are working in the community, and to be able to build off of that is important.
Yes.
And I like learning about, like how you mentioned, the priority is hearing the stories and how the community has strived to finding those positive things, because when you know who you are and you know what you stand for and you know what you represent, it really helps you when you're out of that community. For example, when I left the Palm Springs area to go to college, there were things that the community and my parents instilled in me that I could always recall and remember who I am. So when you have a community and you base the identity around the positive aspects of who they are and also what the community represent, it really helps set the tone for continuing building in that community, but also when people are leaving the community and going out, you just know who you are, you know what you represent, and that's very important to highlight that.
And for our young people today, more than ever, because right now, it's you come out and it's immediately assumed that you're less than, that you don't, and so you need that sense of identity and strength and camaraderie that comes with that. I used to tell everybody, this is my neighborhood. You don't come in here and mess with anything, because these are my folks. I'm going to stand up for them, and you're not going to push them around. And we have to work with this community to have that mindset and to feel that we are there not to tell them what to do, but to help them to carry out what they already know needs to get done.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? One more, maybe. Yes? Who is it? Yes. Is that you, Ivory? Did you want to say something, or is that just a... Okay. Well, everybody, I want to thank you guys for putting up with my voice for that long. But I have to tell you, I love what we are doing. I think that I'm excited for those of you who are going to be on this journey with us, for the many people we will meet along the way, because I think that's what it's really all about. And that doesn't mean it's going to be smooth and perfect all the time. But I think if we stay true to what we really know to be the right way to do things, which is put one step and then make sure you're on target and then take the next step, and then make sure you're on target and take the next step. It's just one step at a time. It's what's going to really change not just this community, but the next generation. That's really what my target is. Ferdinand, did you want to say anything? It's good to see you on camera. Did you want to say anything? Okay. Well, everybody, again, don't forget, March 30th, what time is it, Vladi? For our career fair?
Okay, it's from 4 to 7.
Okay, thank you, Quanah. From 4 to 7, for those of you who are applying for the CRT positions, I know that Quanah's been sending out some paperwork and we're doing orientations, because we really want to get folks out in the field ASAP. We want to start talking in the community. We want to start because time is precious. We have some real ambitious plans going forward. We're hoping to be doing a summer youth program this year. We want to do like a summer youth employment program this year. We're thinking about how can we help the community economically. And so we're looking at all kinds of opportunities that are out there. But in the end, it's just getting a chance to really help people. That's really what it comes down to. So thank you all for your time tonight. Be safe if you have to travel out there, because I don't know what is happening where you are, but I hear the rain outside my house, and I'm in California, which is just stunning, but I don't have to go anywhere. And I will look forward to now these classes, just for those of you, we do it on Tuesday and literally do it again on Thursday night. And the reason was on Tuesday from 10 to 12, we're at COD, College of the Desert campus right on Baristo. And we're gonna be doing it there live, so to speak. It's always fun live. And then for those who maybe that's not a convenient time or they can't get there, they're in classes, work, whatever, we do it again on Thursday evening to give an opportunity for anyone who didn't come on Tuesday to come, or for those who came on Tuesday and want to come back, they're welcome to come on to both. And then we record this one on Thursday, so it'll be available to you through our website, so that if you want to review or go back, it's there. If we get new people on the team, it's there. I don't have to try to redo it again. We have it in the can, so to speak. And I think, did I miss anything else that I'm supposed to cover? Team, my team is here. They can tell me if there's anything else I missed. So I hope to see all of you either next Tuesday, next Thursday, or just whenever you feel. Please always feel free to reach out to us. That's why we're there. Have a good evening.